I got all those dad jokes. I guess they're grandpa jokes now. I'm grandpa. I'm a lot older than I know you folks. I was born 10 years after World War II was over. So anyway, a little bit about myself, and maybe we'll get to know each other better. Born and raised in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I grew up in an extended family. I was talking about that this morning. You know, my best friend at the time, my Aunt Frida, my mom's sister, and her two boys, and two grandmas in the house. So I didn't get away with much anything. And my brothers, older brother, younger brother and sister, and my grandmother and I spent what we consider an unnatural amount of time together. You know, I slept in the same bed with her till I was 7. You know, I get to bed, she's okay. Now's a good time to clear the air. You know, and there's Amnesty Day once a month usually. You got to confess anything, we won't hold it against you. So that's always good to have, and especially when you really need some mercy. You know. Anyway, I don't know. The worst question people can ask me is, "Who are you?" I'm just like, "Oh my God." Let's see. Give my pedigree on my mom's side. I'm Irish, French, Muskogee Creek, and then on my father's side, I'm Oglala Sioux, Osage, French, and English. There's some English in there, and but anyway, but we were raised Osage. My grandmother was the daughter of Chief Fred Lookout. Hey, where's that picture? Bring it over here and let me just show him real quick. My assistant, Daniel. So back in the teens, 20s, this is from the 20s. Here's the folks.
That's gorgeous. I love this.
And Fred Lookout, he Wanashishinka, and Julia Monsetseche. He was Eagle Clan. There were 4 Eagle Clans. And he was on, there was Sky Eagles and Earth Eagles. He was Sky Eagles. And she was Black Bear Clan. And there's a huge sense of duality in just about everything. At one time, those ancient rites, that old religion, those wachobes, those medicine bundles, she was one of those people that had those marks on her body. Some call them tattoos. They weren't tattoos, they were actually ash, elm ash for the record. And but the American Bureau of Ethnology, you can check all this stuff out, you know, the old Osage religion. And but she's the one where she made this ribbon work. She was quite the crafts person. But anyway, here you go. But I was told at the age of 7, it was that it was my job being Shunka. When I grew up, I was just known as Shunka. Everybody down the block called me Shunka, which just, I finally asked one day what that meant, and it just means second son, Black Bear Clan. So the second son, all these responsibilities, I've been raised, I'd hear this phrase, well, good little Osage boys, etc., etc. And I always thought she was talking to me, you know, and I always thought, well, who doesn't want to be a good Osage boy? But sometimes it just turns out, boils down to the basics, like my grandmother's anytime I wanted to give them a little static, they go, "Oh, I remember you're the one that likes to eat every day, right?" And, they knew how to keep me in line. I was too old to play with the little kids. I was too young to play with the big kids. So guess who got to be the step and fetch it? You know, but somebody's got to do these things. And then we're taught the sons of these clans, at one time, I found out now, it's their responsibilities to learn how to dress everybody from the feet up to the top of their head, man and woman. So my formal training started when I was 7, and it was started off, and I'll be through this little story real quick. It just tells you a little bit about what a mentally deranged person I am. Thinking I'm a robotic spider, learning finger weaving, you know, you got to do something to keep your sanity, especially when you make a mistake and you got to unravel it. And then you start again and you look and you realize you made the same mistake. Oh my God, and you only get one more unravel till it's so weak you got to scrap it all and start all over. But I've never known any craft to actually make me pull hair physically out of my head and shed tears. But when you're weaving those size 8 porcelain beads from Jablanek, Czechoslovakia, when you weave those beads in there, sometimes those beads, they're porcelain by the way, and glaze, they have a bubble inside. Sometimes that bubble breaks. So there's this whole thing you got to go through to string, you know, take the core out of the 4-stranded wool, beeswax it, get the thread on there with the beads 2 at a time, get them strung up, but when they hang up, that means something's wrong. And it's usually an imperfection on the bead. So what do? Well, she had a hat box, an old Stetson hat box, and she cut a couple of layers of cardboard and put it in there. And she had a horseshoe nail that was ground down to a tri-point, and it was curved. So my job was to shake the beads in there and look in the dark holes, and any abnormalities, take that and stick it in there and break the beads. So I was a bead breaker. Now the first 2 times I tried that, and I'm almost through with this boring story.
It's not boring.
But I got that box on my lap, I'm sitting on the floor, I'm ready to go, and I'm going to break that bead. And I'm thinking, man, that's really sharp, all right. You know, and I stick it in there, bam, I hit this artery. And I didn't get spanked, but I definitely got whopped in the head a couple of times. And but I'm glad my mother was a nurse. My grandmother was an LPN. I come from a family of nurses, RNs, my oldest son, my sister, my wife's sisters. Like I said, I don't get away with nothing in this world. They're keeping me alive for something. Maybe this is it. So, anyway, I guess it's my great-grandmother's fault, if you want to blame it on somebody. But she set a standard. We have some of her pieces that she's made over the years. The way you tell good yarn work with beads in it is lay it on a flat surface and tap it with your hands. Close your eyes. You'll feel the anomalies if they're there. And then when you're done with that, flip it over. And you can tell you're weaving a fabric. You're not weaving a front or back when you're doing finger weaving. So that's enough said, because when I talk about the robotic spider, you got to be crazy to sit down and do a belt that's that wide and that much fringe, because, you know, let's see, after about an hour you get that far. So, and you better learn the posture. Get you, I think a beach towel is really nice, base of the back. And anyway, there's all kinds of little tricks that I was taught. Beadwork, you don't just do loom work with 1 needle. Use 2. It's stronger, it's quicker, and it's just better. You never use knots. You always weave them in. Anyway, so that's kind of the person I am. Went to Catholic school. My patron saint is St. John the Baptist. Me and John Hughes were the only people in the state of Oklahoma that day that took him as our patron saint. But I figured I was going to need some help down the road, and apparently I was right. So if I'd known I was going to live this long, gentlemen, I'd know I'd have took better care of myself. You know, I lived through the 60s and the 70s. I just don't hardly remember it. But let's see, public schools, diddly-do, Catholic school again, expelled here, you know, ended up at Booker T. Washington, 74, the first volunteer integration program in the United States. It was crazy. I ended up shooting my mouth off backstage to this other stagehand, and the speech teacher who was running the whole shebang heard me, and anyway, Daryl Good, where are you? God bless you. He was a great teacher I never had. But anyway, he forced me into running for office that day because of my big mouth. And next thing you know, I split the white and I split the black vote. And the name Standing Bear, I guess, looked cool to vote for. So I found out a week later that I was elected the student council president. And I didn't know what was going on. I thought I was in trouble. And I was late. And I heard my name report to 222, room 222. And I'm like, uh-oh, I've never heard of that number. So I go up there and I open the door. I knock on the door and I hear, "Come in." So I open the door. And next thing I know, these guys are taking my picture. You know, flashing, no warning. No warning. And I look up at the principal of the high school, and he's grinning really weird. You know, and that's kind of like, you know, like you've been caught in a lie, and they know it, but you don't. Anyway, it's better not to lie to begin with. I know you can't get away with anything. It's going to catch up to you eventually. That's what I've always heard. And usually at the worst possible time. I don't know. Anyway, so I weathered that storm, and thanks to the speech of John Carradine and the man who shot Liberty Valance, if you know what I'm talking about, with a piece of paper, I pulled the same stunt. I stayed up all night, you know, but I want to talk to you from the heart. Anyway, I told him I was in the student council at Will Rogers for a year. No, I attended there for a year. I was in the student council for about a month and a half, and the reason why I quit was because I was bored. And what was boring me was the fact that I couldn't understand why we had to work our tails off to raise funds for the senior class to get some kind of vacation we were all paying for. And I said, if I'm elected, we're not going to do that. And we're going to spend money we raise, and we're going to get brand new vending machines. And you all we're going to take a inventory, you know, a vote on what's going to be in there. And I'll leave you all with the best lesson, senior class, is if you want something bad enough, you'll get out and work for it. That way it'll mean more to you when you get it. But know the difference between wanting something and needing something. And hopefully you have the wisdom, it doesn't show up too late to be of any use, to choose what you need, not what you want. And let's see, what else is there? Went to college, TU, semester there. Oh, triple board. Had to get out of there. Sorry, apologies. I know there were a lot of good things there. A couple of good people. Couple. Yeah, I did time at Cassia Hall. Yeah, that was rough. Anyway. What's that phrase? You know, I guess I'm no longer. You know, are you a practicing Catholic? Well, you know, I've had enough practice. I've heard the stories. I remember it. You know, and I get a dispensation from Vatican, from the Pope when you reach 65. I didn't know if you guys knew that or not, but yeah, you get a pass.
You get a pass.
You know, I mean, I asked my grandfather. He told me, "You got to go to mass as much as possible." And I go, "Why?" He said, "Because that communion, that host, is consecrated bread." He goes, "Yeah, I know." Well, if you really want that much, why don't you go to the priest, ask him for a bunch of those wafers, have him consecrate them, go home, get a bowl, put them in there, and make some cereal. And he didn't talk to me for about 2 months. Anyway, I have to control myself. I grew up around the old folks, Osage folks, and especially the old ladies. And I say that in reverence. I love them dearly. And I can't believe they're all gone. Nobody prepared me for them being gone. Anyway, great comfort in one's life. But it seemed like again, at Indian camp in Pawhuska, when June dances are going on, Elonska, you all got to come if you've never been there. Consider it a personal invite. You can tell them, hey, he invited us. And they got any problems, they know how to find me. I'm not hard to find. I'll straighten them out. So anyway, you all are welcome. It's not a powwow, though. Basically, it's 7 dances in 4 days, each district. Gray Horse, Pawhuska, Hominy. And on the final day, it leads up to the family songs that are put in that drum. And they observe those family songs, and they talk a little bit about the song and the person that it was composed for. And it's quite interesting. Sunday is the day, too, when all the women pull out all the fancy ribbon work.
Cool.
Guaranteed. Elonska. I was a tail dancer from 1972 to 1992 on 5 consecutive drums. It's a fact. You guys can look it up. Anyway, if that means anything to you. It may, if you come to the dances, you'll find out what that means. Tail dancers. Each district has like 4 tail dancers as a rule. It alters. It used to be 2. Sometimes it's 4. Sometimes it's 6. I don't know. It's not for me. You're appointed. You're not elected. You just do what they tell you. Dota Hunka, the head committee man, he straightened you out real quick. But my father was a tail dancer, and they kind of liked the idea of me filling in for him. He passed away in 74. Too bad, just when I was old enough to know what questions to ask. Anyway, 44 is too young to die, I think. But again, circumstances, what can you say? Diet, exercise. I don't think golf covers everything as far as exercise. And he did a lot of business on the golf course. What can I say? Anyway, Daniel, can you hand me that other suitcase? Is it here or is it up there?
Just out of your reach.
Just out of my reach. Hey, you have a fantastic beard, by the way.
Thank you, sir.
I grew a beard about 2 years ago, or during the COVID time, and I had no idea I could grow a beard. And I looked like one of those people say, "What are you doing?" And I say, "Prospecting." Anyway, sorry. Hey, I thought I'd bring my step-grandpa, Floyd Hobbs, one of the old cowboys. He's the guy in the overalls. But there's an old oil rig you guys can look at. We'll leave it over on the table. You guys can come over.
Was that in the Osage?
Yes, ma'am.
Deep
That's
hole?
up there.
How deep?
I don't know, but it's up there at Hurd.
Oh, okay.
See, when I got a little older, they shipped me up here in the summertime. I spent 2 weeks at Hurd on the ranch and 2 weeks at the Duncan Hotel.
I know the Duncan.
Oh, Georgia.
The story.
Yeah. Oh, here's a
Walk the
picture
talk.
of my dad the day he was named by Chief Bacon Ryan,
Oh.
and he's sitting on Frank Phillips's lap. He's got this barbecue in his hand. He's not trying to feed the baby, but he's chewing on it because mouth. Pawnee Bill's next to him, Mr. Skelly. Fred Lookout's right there. Sorry, Grandpa, they busted Frank. Revard, he's one of the Revard guys, Francis Revard. A lot of people mistook him for Will Rogers. Anyway, that's Pasatopo, that's a Pawnee man, that
We'll pass it.
John Wayganche. But anyway, this woman standing behind Frank is my grandmother,
I know that.
and the guy standing up there is my grandfather.
Mm.
And this guy over here is Russell Rush, polka man, and his older brother Joe Rush was a great singer. He was a great dancer. But anyway, you guys can look at that. And
So was
about
the
this.
baby related to you?
That's my dad.
Oh, that's the dad.
That's
Okay, there you go.
awesome. I see that.
Thank
And
you.
my grandpa, the picture of here he is. My great grandma made him get dressed in Osage clothes. What I love is fabric. You can tell it's really velvet. You can tell velvet on black and white photographs.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
But
Ooh,
his
that's
nickname
beautiful.
back then, and I was young. I heard a couple of old ladies refer to him as the Sheik. And I was like, what's that? And they said, well, there's this guy named Rudolph. Anyway, Valentino.
Oh.
He always had that.
Do you mind me asking you how old you are?
Let's see. I'm 70 and some change.
Okay. And how are you related to Chief Standing Bear?
That's my older brother.
For real.
There you go.
Yeah.
I love him.
Well, you know, he used to be a lawyer.
Yes, I did know
Practicing
that.
in part of the bar. I almost caught a couple of right hooks in the parking lot. I shouldn't be saying this on tape. And they go, oh, you're not him. And I go, no, I'm not. I'm the black sheep of the family. Get your fingernails. Pop that up there. No, just take
I
this,
believe it.
push it forward, and push that down and lift.
That's funny.
Da-da-da-dum. Oh, that should click.
Surprised me how many different schools I went to when I was a kid.
There you go.
I mean, no wonder it's
Grab that.
no wonder it's
Mhm.
gangster. Because he had to go, you know?
These are the couple of Centennial books. And this is the pre-centennial or semi-centennial. Let's see, what's the interesting thing about this? There's something. Oh. It's got the council, all the council people and the chief's signatures in there.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that was back in the 50s. This was in 72. Hey, pictures of my grandpa. There they are, Pat, I found them.
Love it.
He's
I
getting
love
makeup.
it.
He was in the
Oh.
Chisholm Trail, what do you call it?
Documentary?
With Robert Preston. He's getting his wig put on. There he is with Robert Preston right there.
Oh.
Cool.
Anyway,
Movie.
that's where they
What was the
are.
name of it again?
Who would have thought?
Look that up.
Anyway, here's these. And you all are familiar with Will Rock?
Yeah.
All right. Here's a
Mhm.
hardback version.
Mhm.
I didn't know. Hey!
Yeah.
Found another photograph. Now we know. Here's my older brother. There's my father. There's my little brother. There's me. There's my cousin. There's my uncles.
Oh, my goodness.
And there's a lovely lady back there. Look at that. How you can stick that back there. That's-
Table?
I can't. I better. Sorry about this, folks. Okay. What's this? 1973. Oh. She must have been a Miss Indian America candidate. What's different is there's different content in this book
Compared to the
than
paper.
there is in this
There
book.
is.
And you notice
Mhm.
the finger weaving.
Yes.
By the way, Julia Lookout made that.
Oh, no, I didn't know.
It turns, it's different.
Yeah.
And there's a different quality of paper and different, and then there's this version. And it's still different.
Wow.
So, and I think there's another version,
Wow.
whatever, but you guys can browse through that. And let's see. I'm also the former director of the Osage Tribal Museum.
Mhm.
It was first privately owned Native American museum in the country. May of 1938 is when it was dedicated. 2 days. I think it was the 3rd and the 4th. Anyway, that little museum at Pawhuska has gone through a lot of changes. And actually it's being run professionally now. Back in the day, they sent all cultural questions to the museum. And it was Catherine Wilson or me, and our world would change every time we picked the phone up. But anyway, we did the best we could, and I think we did a good job.
More authentic.
Well, one thing I did find is part of the John L. Berg collection that was a big part of getting the grant. Lillian Matthews, John Joseph's older sister, she was the first director back then. But John L. Berg was a doctor at Grey Horse in Fairfax. And a lot of those folks would they get sick or whatever, and they didn't really have the money to pay them. If you were, let's see, you couldn't lease your land. The law was back then, you couldn't lease your land unless if you were more than half Osage or something. Anyway, it restricted them and the bankers. They had a big thing going on, believe me. But some of those people would pay John Bird with artifacts or items.
Oh.
And that's,
wow.
you know, and arrowheads, collections and all this, and things that pass down through the families. Some of them are really important pieces,
Wow.
really important. So I had no idea. There was limited storage space in there, and going up to the bell tower, up toward the steps, I found some pretty amazing things. Thank God there was a lot of paper packed in between them, because that's where the mice made their nests.
Oh boy.
But amazingly, opened them up, fur, feathers, fine,
Wow.
crazy.
Wow.
And that's a copper bell up there and on top of that museum. I really, someday will have to tell what I know about the ringing of that bell and how it brought down a lot of different worlds all at once in one day. It's crazy. But they used to ring that bell before council meetings. And one day it was ringing out of order, and one of the lawyers for an oil company was at the bank. And he says, why are they ringing that bell? And he says, well, they're up there, and there's a thing called a foster lease. You ever heard of that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. The guy said, the banker said, well, they're renewing that foster lease right now. And that guy goes, really? So he gets on the phone, he calls some people, he physically runs up to the hill, goes in there, and he gets the council to acknowledge him. And he didn't know what was going on or what they ordered, but he immediately ordered, he said that he would, his company and the people he represented would give like 10% over the highest bid.
Whoa.
Next thing you know, the council went into executive session and ran everybody out of the room. And the guy left behind, the superintendent, I don't even want to say his name. He was a debauched person. He used to spend a lot of time at the White Elephant in Dewey, if you know what that place is. And anyway, what happened, and the superintendent was out of town conveniently and had an alibi. But it was all messed up because of that guy got them, and he tried to ask questions, and they just called the whole council meeting off. And then it started a series of investigations that caused the 1907 election to happen. We'll just leave it at there. It's pretty deep. I got to find those court records, and you guys can look it up. I'll tell you what to look up. But anyway, it's pretty amazing, this part of the country. Frank Phillips, they called him Uncle Frank. Everybody did. My grandmother told me, because you want to tell you something? And I said, what? She says, my dad wanted me to drive him and Frank Phillips, Uncle Frank, around. They were going to look at some land or whatever, and they were driving around, and I told him, hey, I'm getting kind of low on gas. And then Frank said, well, go up here and go down there to Phillips Station. They got good gas there. So they pull up, and she pulls up, and the guy says, what'll it be? And she goes, fill it up. So anyway, they filled it up, and they're talking in the back seat, and she's being their chauffeur. And the guy said, it'll be whatever amount of money it was. And she turns around and looks at her dad and Frank Phillips, and she held her hand out. And then her dad yelled at her, what are you doing? He doesn't carry money on him. Pay the man. So she had to dig in her pocket wallet to some of the last for money she paid, and she grumbled all the way home. But she said, you know, rich people get rich by spending other people's money.
Yeah.
I would, huh? So don't worry about it. Anyway. So, but he used to, he was great during the dances. He'd send these little, what do you call them? You take the sides off of them, flatbeds, and you can take the, you know, put the wooden deals in. It's a truck, but it's got the walls you can take off. Anyway, he'd show up. He'd send these trucks with these silver platters with elk hide. I mean, not elk hide, elk meat, antelope, which is very tasty, I must admit. Bison, you name it, venison,
Yeah.
and they take it up there to the camp in Pawhuska at Indian camp, and have a big old feast. And then they get finished, they just put the trays, and those guys would drive on out of there. And but I'll tell you a story. You guys want to hear a story about Frank Phillips and the folks?
Sure.
Some people called my dad. I almost brought some. He had this little prairie airplane that had had popped, and it was like you had pedals.
Oh,
And my dad had the whole leather flight helmet, and goggles, and everything. My grandfather, to occupy him, my great-grandmother, she sent him down to Spartan School and got him a pilot's license. So he had an old Jenny. He used to fly around. He was quite a character. He was a polo champion. He had the course record out there at the country club for years. Anyway, where's Patty Joe? What was I saying? Must have been a lie.
About Grandpa Eugene flying an airplane.
Oh, no, my dad and Frank Phillips. Okay. So, does anybody remember back in the day downstairs, you walk downstairs and there was this narwhal tusk. Anybody remember that? Right there against the wall. All you had to do was pick it up, lift it up out of that ring, and then pull it down, and it came right out. Anyway, my dad, well, the folks' driver, Chester, there was that suit of armor there. Remember that?
Yes.
They used to dress my dad up in a suit of armor. And on the south side of the bunkhouse or whatever, there's a big oak tree, and there's big scar tissue there, and my dad caused that
Oh my.
with that. And
That's funny.
he did it twice, but the second time, he fell down, Chester was gone, and there was nobody there to help him get up.
Well, that suit of armor's not very big. I'm a docent out there. That's not
Well,
very
he
big.
started crying
He started crying.
and cursing that suit,
Oh my
and he
God.
got out of there, and he never wanted to have anything to do with it again.
Yeah.
But the funny thing was, is he used to use that narwhal tusk
Yeah.
to joust, and he'd joust with that tree. There's a couple of spots.
Funny.
Anyway, and those boots by his Frank's bed, those tall boots, he used to be able to put those on and clop around
My
there.
goodness.
wow.
There you go.
And I used to jump on Jane Phillips,
Mhm.
her bed. He used to like jump on her bed.
With the boots?
with the boots and with all those pictures around her bed.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And what really upset him was he'd knock over some of these pictures and stuff. And there was an order in which those pictures were.
Yeah.
If you fell out of favor, I hear she would turn it.
Yes, that's exactly.
Or if she had a bunch of them going around the ceiling,
Mhm.
and she'd take those down and leave the blank spot,
Yeah.
just so, like, to let the person know they've transgressed.
That's true.
So, that, you know, I worked out there, Mr. Townsend.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was my distant cousin and his brother at the Field Museum in Chicago. Aunt Ida, their mom, did you ever know her?
I did not.
Well, when I was 11 to 17, I worked in nursing homes, Colonial Manor Nursing Home in Tulsa, and convalescent too. My mom was the supervisor of both. And when the weather got bad, the nurses' aides sometimes don't show up. And somebody's got to clean those stuff up in the morning and wipe it, you know, mop and help everybody to the lunchroom and back and all that. And I've done everything in the world, let me tell you. And as far as the human condition is concerned, I'll leave it at there.
Thank
Haven't
you.
given birth.
Well, I'm coach, Lamont's coach, and I can deliver a baby anytime, anyplace, anywhere. Ask my wife. Got 4. Boy, girl, boy, girl. Anyway, managed to raise them into adulthood.
That's okay.
But anyway, Frank Phillips, he was, you ever heard of the Phillip Bar? Out there by the lake,
Yeah.
there's a
Yes.
little gazebo.
Yes.
And there used to be a wet bar there, and it was called the Fill Up Up Bar, where you get your drinks. And but they used to have all kinds of dances and stuff out there. Bands would be playing out there, and I've got some pictures too of when my dad. That picture in the paper or whatever. My dad's sitting there. That's the day my father was named at Wool Rock by Chief Baconrine. And but I've got some pictures. They had a big dance too, and they're giving away horses. And but it'd be nice to add to you guys' collection there. I think Frank Phillips is in there too. Those pictures of him dressed in those clothes. I mean, with the war bonnet and all that. Well,
Honorary.
Fred
as such.
is the one that dressed them.
Mhm.
But I worked out there for about almost a week. And my truck broke down, and I couldn't get it going. Got it kind of going, but not good enough to go down the road and back. And but I remember my last day. I didn't know it was my last day.
Oh.
But I was taking off, and it was kind of, the snow was kind of melting. And you know the back, when you're leaving, that road is kind of wiggly around those little trees. Okay, so I'm on my 70 GMC truck, power steering, and Grand Sierra. I love that truck. Everybody I was related to hated it though. Where's that truck? Anyway, I was driving down and I heard the craziest sound I'd ever heard out my left window. And I'm trying to negotiate, and there's still some snow on the road. And I go, whoa, and I turn, and I keep hearing this sound. And I turned and looked, and it was anybody know what a yellowhammer is? Woodpecker? Or some kind of yellow-shafted woodpecker was flying and screaming, and there was a cardinal bird attached to its back, and right behind its head was ripping out feathers.
Gosh, I've never heard of that.
And I went, whoa, and I almost got hit those trees, and I straightened up, and they were just going on, and this thing went on for about 80 feet, and I finally had to go out of there. The drama was still going on, but it was a monumental moment in my life.
Wow.
I've seen a lot of crazy things, but that was right up there.
That would be.
So anyway, enough talk about me. Gosh, my Osage name is Le Dochwe too, by the way. It's the war bundle of the Black Bear people. I was told never to say it out loud at one time because it would offend all those converted Catholic Osage ladies. It would, and the nuns. And I remember my older brother. There's a book called Art of the Osage, and they had this exhibition in St. Louis I was part of. And they wanted to know all this information. And clan knowledge usually was considered property. And, you know, attain that, the priesthood and all that clan knowledge, you know, people paid for that. You know, get your ears properly pierced. That was 4 horses. Anyway, those ways and all those ancient prayers. At one time there was 24 clans. Now we're down to about maybe a handful. But those ways, those ancient prayers, they were hard and meaningful, and they have a residual effect on people like myself. I have to live in 2 worlds. And sometimes I forget which world I'm in. But 1, I was born with a sense of humor, and 2, I'm the luckiest person in the world I know. And I was told never push your luck or it'll leave you. And with regard to praying, well, I reserve that for, I pray for other people. Every time I prayed for myself, I got what I was praying for, and it usually wasn't what I wanted. My older brother, the chief, and the lawyer, he's one of the top treaty lawyers in the country, if not the. But he's one of those guys that have photographic memory.
Yeah.
And from summer of '69, he read every page, front and back, of the almanacs from the year he was born up to then. And that's when he needed, afterwards needed glasses. But yeah, he used to test me, throw me the book, and say, you know, ask me anything anywhere, you know, the gross national product of whatever. It's crazy. He got all the brains pretty much of the family. Well, the boys, I guess. But I got the luck. And music. I'm the music, the artist of the family, so some say the black sheep of the family. But there's a whole lot wrong with me there. I went to IAIA, the Institute of American Indian Arts out in Santa Fe, and I had the most meaningful semester coming up, and my grandmother got sick. I packed it up, made it back to Tulsa, and she got well. I met my wife. We fell in love. 4 years later, here we are. So, any questions, folks? Yes, ma'am.
You made a remark just in passing, talking about dressing from feet to head. I've always heard it head to foot. Is that just, is there an Indian way of thinking about dressing that goes from feet to head?
That's usually where you dress from the bottom up. That's where we dress. A lot of things about Osage design is distinctive. It's more symbolic representation or multi-symbolic representation than decorative. We don't feel obligated to fill up the space. We got something to say, we say it. You know, there was a time when everybody knew how to pray through the morning star and the evening star and talk to their parents, the moon and the sun. Osages were confused. The people were confused when they first saw Osages praying. using the life-giving rays of the sun right as it popped up, and they'd pray and they'd cry for what they missed and what they want. And then as soon as that sky would clear, they'd stop crying. The whole tribe would cry. Some say even the horses, the dogs. But
Unknown caller.
it's a scam. Let me have it. Best way to get rid of scammers is to say, not interested, period, and just hang up on them.
I don't even answer.
Or you can say, so, how you doing? I want to know, I got 2 questions. One, have you been fishing lately? If you have, what have you been using? And then, if they want to go on and on and on, I get a case. Are you dating anybody right now? And then call you in. When's the last time I got a prank call, a scam call?
I know, they don't call your phone.
Well, the word's out. I've been blackballed.
Oh, darn.
Well, yes, sir.
My mother told me a story that she had gone to an Osage funeral, and this gentleman that had died was, I guess, laid out there in the church, and people came up and chewed him out. Now, was that just a one-time deal that the guy needed chewing out, or is there an Osage tradition?
I will tell you something that may explain that. May.
Okay.
First of all, I guess I would advise anybody, if you got something on your mind, like you want to tell someone you love them, tell them while they're alive. You know, it's memorial business. People's memories fade.
Yeah.
You know, the memory of somebody telling you they love you and they really mean it. But there's a phrase, and I can't remember the Osage phrase, but what it means is to use the body. I don't know if you ever heard of that. But when we use some people, and I crossed over into this world and did that at a couple of funerals to the departed, and the family loved it. I thought I would go, oh my God, what did I do, you know? But what you do is you touch their head and you're talking to the person. You can talk to them through your mind, but or you whisper to them. That's what I do, always whisper to them and say, you know, every good thought you thought, I want some of that in me. And you take that, whatever they want to give you, and you bring it to your mind. And then you touch their chest, their heart, and all the good acts of love that you've experienced and have done. I want some of that too. Please give me some of that. And you bring it into yourself. And then you touch their hands. And you say, all the good deeds and all the good things you've made with these hands, I want some of that in me. And then, well, now this can be controversial, but some of them, they had a tail feather, the eagle feathers. I was told by my godfather, my uncle, Morris Lookout, he said, that's their feather, leave it alone. A lot of people want to fan themselves off and do all this and that, but a lot of that's just nervous anxiety expressing itself, whatever, sadness, sorrow, having to deal with that transition. You know, I'm still dealing with it. Like I say, I haven't got closure. I was told in a dance. Sometimes you'll see someone, you know who's gone. You find yourself racing up to see him again. It's a good thing. Those songs, those family songs are a good thing. All the politics is left outside. the nature, the air is allowed to come through. The elements. But it's a good thing.
So this guy may have just needed chewing out.
Well, don't we all? I apologize.
None needed.
I have another question.
Yes, sir.
There's been a lot of controversy in newspapers and stuff about the wind farms and what they do to the horizon. Can you explain to me the horizon for the Osage? That's very spiritual.
Well, the west, the sun comes from the east and sets in the west. There used to be a path down the villages. There used to be 5 villages, big villages. But they always had that path of the sun. And what you would do, that's what the east is where life comes from, the sun, life-giving rays. The west, the moon, is the one that's involved with death and taking those and shepherding them to where they need to go. Those sages didn't pray to the sun, they were praying through the sun, praying to that force. You hear Wakanda, it's not, in the Sioux, Oglalas, they say Wakanta, but Wakanda. And you hear different people describe this, that, and the other, and I told my grandmother, who was apparently an authority on this stuff, you know, what does that mean? Does it mean, you know, when you hear the great mystery and all this, goes, no, that's not it. It goes back to those 4 worlds. The Osages believe there was 4 worlds. The seen, the unseen, the known, and the unknowable. And Wakanda means the unknowable force that causes everything to be placed into motion. And that's evidence of life. Even a rock can go to the top of a mountain and then erode back into the sea. It's all motion. And that motion is called Moi. M-O-I, nasal N, Moi. Universal linguistic script there. I don't read the new alphabet they have going on. I'm just too old to care. To be honest with you. I should care more, maybe. But I got too many books to read to care. You know? You can't find time to read a book, folks. You gotta make time.
So when you were a child, did you speak Osage? Like
Oh,
when
yeah.
you were living in Tulsa? Okay.
Yeah, and my grandmother stopped with this, when I was about 8 years old. She said, you know, Southwestern Bell, remember Southwestern Bell?
My dad
Phone
worked there
company?
for 40 years.
She said the only people that's benefiting from us speaking Osage nowadays are the phone companies. We're so far apart. Back in the day, you'd have several generations all in the house speaking
Yes.
Osage. You know, with me, it was always good to know some basic stuff. You start to hear, you know, and hearing the name Shunka and everybody laugh, you know, and you realize, oh, they're talking about me. But there's a lot of things carry over. They're still universal. You know what I'm talking about. EGOTs, things like that. You know, EGOTs. Got any E? EGOTs, it's toilet paper.
Oh.
And they used to have mullion, is that mullion?
Giant bullion.
Yeah,
The leaves from it.
both sides are velvety. That was Osage toilet paper. EGOTs there. And it was also diapers. They made diapers. And you can keep those in your car in a baggie for a couple of months and they're still pliable, still good. So, and they're good if you have respiratory problems and you smoke that smoke, and it'll help you cough that phlegm up. Where were we? Oh, getting bawled out? Well, the little lady used to say to me, she said, you know, when I'm gone, you're going to miss me bawling you out like this. And at the time, you're like, no, I won't. And the truth is, yeah, we do. So, and as far as telling somebody something like that, I think it's more performative art and for the crowd and the reactions. And people love to provoke. I remember at a funeral, I'm not going to say whose and why and how, but I had to actually say, Amen. And they were going on, and they were out of order to begin with. And I finally had to go, Amen. And finally they got the message and they sat down and shut up and continued. But that was, you never know. I always told my kids when you go to funerals or weddings, cut everybody slack, because don't say words you can't take back. And there are words you can say you can't take back. They just burn into people's minds sometimes, or their heart. And I was going to say subjected. I was privileged to be around a bunch of old nuns back in the 50s and 1960. You didn't see too many people that were 90 years old. But some of the old Benedictine nuns down in Tulsa at Monte Cassino, it's where they sent them worldwide. It's like the elephant's graveyard, you know. But I got trapped in the wrong place. I ended up in their barracks, and I ended up peeking around the corner, hearing a bunch of talking and going on, and a couple of them saw me. I ducked out of the way, and they, hey, come here, you know, uh-oh. And I was exposed to these old nuns. Some of them full habit, half habit, some were in plain clothes. But they were all like reading newspapers, smoking cigarettes, and drinking coffee, you know, just like folks at home, you know. They wanted to know, you know, before it was all over, we were good buddies. I got dropped off. My mom was working 2 shifts. My dad was, anyway, 5:30 in the morning, they dropped me off, waiting for a half hour for Mass to start. Sitting there chasing gin bags under the lights, you know. But they told me some of the most meaningful lessons and things about I've carried through my whole life for these folks, these ladies. When I say old ladies, I say it in reverence. And I don't know, half of them thought my hair should be parted that way, and half of them thought it should be parted that way, and my scalp is still confused. Anybody else having a bad hair day today? They didn't predict that rain. Anyway. The world wishes it had my problems, I guess. I got a few, but I keep those to myself. They work themselves out. Everything does eventually. So any other questions? Nothing's, if I can't tell you, I'll tell you why I can't tell you.
This is really off the wall, totally
Okay.
almost off the topic. But I know that through the years and the generations, Native Americans have figured out what plants have medicinal value, what parts for what. How in the heck did they figure that out?
I'm glad you asked that.
Could you repeat the question?
She wants to know that Native Americans over the years have been able to discern native plants. What's good for you, what's bad for you.
What can be used to treat what or something?
Yeah, what can be used to treat? I asked the very same questions to my grandmother. And by the way, if I speak a little bluntly, it's because of their influence, sorry. But you remembered what they said because they spoke very directly. And she said, well, what do you think prisoners are for?
Oh my gosh.
And see, the thing is you got to remember back in the day of hunting and gathering, and your creek is your latrine, and you can't bring just any horse there because you got to have, you know, hookworms and all that mess. You know, you got a lot to consider. And the same thing had to do with bringing home captives, war party. a lot of them, they would gather them and trade them to the French. They would send them out to Jamaica and sugar plantations and all that. And keeping our French connections happy and our monopoly over brass, steel, and powder. We were serious about that. Anyway, what were we saying?
Figuring out the prisoners' testing.
Oh,
Medicinal
yeah,
plants.
well, you know, we used to, also we looked, in these war parties, they looked for, they had these captive straps, they call them captive straps, because you would use them in warfare, and when they blow those eagle bone whistles and those cane whistles making those elk sounds and screaming eagle sounds, Osage warriors felt like as long as they're in the presence of that sound, they were invincible. It was all about the war movement and transforming into a tool of destruction. They wanted to be like the prairie fire. They wanted to leave the remains of a prairie fire. It's blacker than the night sky. And that glow of the fire shows you it. You know, you can see it. Anyway, they would take these straps, and when they would come upon somebody, I give up, you know, and someone, okay, hold still. They'd put that around there and they'd take their hands and say, hang on to that. That means that's telling everybody else, you're my property. As long as you hang on to that, you're safe. And then they would go through the skirmish or whatever, and they'd capture everybody who's left. They'd line them up, see who's wounded, who's not. Wounded ones, move over here, execute them. There they are. The other ones that are all lined up, able-bodied, they check their teeth, and they say, okay, you guys have a choice. You could either become one of us, be adopted into our people, or you can join your friends on the ground there. And a lot of them chose to be, you know, go with the, you know, to die. Because they were told, next time you see us, these people see us, they're going to be the enemy. So they'd have a little ceremony. And my son's named after it was called Mohishutsi, the red knife. It's a stone knife, a blade basically. And my little brother's name is Mahi Wakanta, the maker of the stone knife. That red knife is red flint, was used to adopt people in the tribe. You had earth people and sky people and water people. But Sishu and Hunka, sky, Hunka is earth and water people. Water people, a lot of them carried different things on the warpath. There were kettle bearers, there were people who carried salt, people who carried water. Anyway, they'd line up, people would say, okay, yeah, we want to be a part of you guys. All right, hold still then. And they bring this water out. Have you ever seen a drop of blood hit some water? How it just kind of just spreads out? Well, that was symbolic of their old blood dispersing into the water and the Hunka people of this earth. So they would do just a little prick on the end of their nose and just one drop of blood. And then they're told to take that water and just touch it to their lips. And then bam, cut his bonds. You're one of us, bro. And it would go down, and they don't, before they do that though, they would pick the two youngest and healthy ones, and they'd strip them naked with just moccasins, and they'd paint a yellow line across their face from the left to the right. And they were witnesses to who did what and where. And then they would be provided with water and salt and some jerky or whatever, and they were told to go back to your people or whatever, or go tell whoever will listen. That's what happened. And Tom, Dick, and Harry are now adopted into the tribe. So these guys would come to, and there was the order, the Nomashinka, the men and the women were all together, the, what do you call it, the database, the old folks. The religious sanctioning of the chiefs. There was a war chief and a peace chief. Duality. Anyway, there was an order of who doesn't have a husband, whose son was killed, whose son-in-law or whatever, who, you know, he's got 2 wives, and who does, you know, somebody needs these men to be husbands, and these women, and they would assign them to these families. And sometimes they'd walk right into, they'd say, okay, now, you see that herd of horses out there? That now belongs to you. The guy you're replacing was a great horse breeder, and that's yours. And all these things, his parfleche is tied on top of the wigwam hanging down. Half of that right there, that's all yours. And by the way, not only do you have a new wife, you got her younger sister too. And there's your mother-in-laws. So this is have a nice, happy family and a nice, happy wigwam. And put those boys to work. You know, and younger boys, everybody had a purpose. 10-year-olds on up to 14, you guys automatically take the horses to the creek. Take it to get a drink, you know. 14 to 20, they escorted all the women to the latrine. You know, there's all these things that people don't think about. Like I said, my grandfather used to catch horses. And his Omaha friend, Raymond Tyndall, they had these big sticks with ropes, and they'd wait behind a hill, and they'd scare them up and catch one, and they'd take it down to the water and get it in the water, and get it swimming, and they'd wear it down, and they'd get off on it, on and off of it, get them used to the touch, and then after a while, they'd make a little rope bridle, and they'd just get on there and ride out, but they didn't dare take that horse back to camp because that's another mouth to feed, much like captives. That's why they had to take that into account. There was some of them you're only allowed to take so many. They had these buckles and these rings, and they would give those, and like they were for taking slaves. That's what they're, you know, don't you know, they can't be injured because the French won't take injured. You know, they got to be able-bodied and not too old, not too young. Anyway, they also had a form of slavery. And you're a slave to this family, and then you work for them. You're wood cutting and do whatever this old ladies tell you to do, okay? But the only way to get out of that is to make goo-goo eyes to some young maiden that doesn't have a husband, and she goes and tells her, not her mom, but her grandma, I got kind of a crush on this guy. You know, see what you can do. And next thing you know, they're getting married. He's never referred to as Osage, but he's still useful in the ceremonies. The Watsipani is like a person that goes and gets stuff and does this and that, calls people to the ceremonies and such. But they can actually be elevated into the husband of a woman, you know, be treated, have certain rights. You can work, you know, but it doesn't hurt to have a nice smile, I guess. I got to work on it. My boss wanted me to smile once. I was working at Tandy Leather. And he said, you know, you have a nice smile. And I thought, uh-oh. And then he thought, let me see your smile. Kind of. And he said, never mind. Any more questions, folks? Yes, sir.
You were talking about captives, prisoners, all that sort of thing. What, back in the day, how did the tribe treat like developmentally disabled people? I mean, you know, those kinds of folks that were kind of there, but they weren't there. I mean,
You've heard that fresh expression, so-and-so's touched in the head? And that means they were touched like by the hand of God or something. They were revered as such. And like some of these old timers, like myself, I've got a storm finger here, you know, and it's never wrong. And arthritis, some people can tell when the storms are coming. And magically, to somebody who doesn't have arthritis, you know what I mean? But there was always something for somebody. And everybody had a place, even if it was just sorting rocks for the people napping the flint or cutting tin. One of the favorite things Osages loved was when they would charge rent to some of the sodbusters going out to Oregon, because they charged like, we want one of the bands on your water barrel. And I said, why? We just want it. And they didn't tell them that they would cut them out with tin snips and make arrowheads. So, one day when we're not on film, I'll tell you what Neodicea really means.
What does it mean?
What, should I tell them? I can't tell them that. We're in Oklahoma.
Well,
I don't know, nobody asked about that. So
What does Neodicea mean?
my big mouth, you got me so much trouble. I used to work for concert security. I'm still on call. And for every great rock and roll story I can tell you 3 to 4 bad ones, all due to my mouth. Okay, so I gotta clean this up. Okay. There was a spring, Indian Springs. In Osages, you could tell in Osage Spring they would, they're like a rectangle, and they put rocks down there and build it at an angle so you can work your way down and work your way back up. And there'd usually be 2 or 3 big slabs to cover them, and it usually take 2 people or sometimes 3 to move that slab to get in there. Anyway, out there in Neodicea, there was Osage Well, and all these wagons were heading out west, and they'd stop and fill up their water barrels. So Osages and other tribes had what they call pass papers. They were these little tins about this long, and they had the commandant, Fort Clark or whatever, would say so and so is in good standing with the United States, served as a scout for this regiment and all that. He's in good standing, and a lot of them I've seen him have yellow and kind of greenish blue ribbons tied on them, like tin, with a little cap on there. And when the Indians would come up to a group or a wagon train, they'd hold those up and wave them, saying, like basically friendly Indians, So they'd come out, what do you want? Let's see your papers. Okay, whatever. What do you need? And they would do some kind of exchange. All kinds of things happen on the prairie. Anyway, Osages learned that a lot of these sodbusters didn't know the rule of waving the tin over the air, and they'd shoot somebody and ask questions later. So the Osages would just kind of scout and just kind of feel the mood of the wagon train. And there was this wagon train coming through there filling up their water, and they go, I don't know if we could trust these guys. I don't know, they're just kind of feeling them out. They said, let's just lay low here and just wait till they pass on. Well, the Osage word for water is ni, like Neodicea. What's that river?
Nilogany and.
No, the river.
Oh,
The river by there?
No, the big one.
Oh, Neosho.
Neosho. Osho is the body. Ni is water, a body of water. Sometimes it's switched to like kind of Mexican.
Okay.
Pahuska is Payushka. Hair, white hair. Anyway, named after chief. So they're watching this wagon train going through, loading up, and the last one finished. And they're ready to go. What's this guy do? His overalls. He drops his overalls off, hangs his rear end over there, does his business, and then gets up and leaves. And then the Osages who were wanting a drink of water decided that's what they call pishi. It's bad. It's no good. You walk away from it. It's not right. Pishi. And that's what they said. What's wrong with it? And they say, Neojetse. Ni is water. Ojetse is the bathroom. That jete is the inner relief. Ojetse. So if you see Osages, you can say, where's the O at? They're saying, where's the Ojets? That's short, Ojetse. No one says that anymore. We just say, where's the O at? It's like, where's the E? The E got say. But anyway, there's other things we say other than everyday stuff. Anybody else? Any questions? I don't know what the time frame is. I don't know when we're supposed to talk and when we're supposed to stop. Are we over time?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Tell you what, folks,
Not a problem.
it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And feel free to look at these photographs and pamphlets. And I hope you got something out of it.
Yes.
And